Good morning, everyone. My name, of course, is Dr. Julie Tooman. It's great to be in here with you guys. So someone had expressed to me the other day a frustration that they were having, and I thought it was such a great topic for us to go over. They were talking about how they'd gone to their natural practitioner. I'm not sure if it was functional medicine or naturopath or a natural MD. I really don't know. But that person had done hormonal testing on them and had said, well, your progesterone's low, so we need to supplement progesterone. And then they said, and then I felt awful. So let's go over what progesterone actually is and does in the body, but also then why so many people feel awful when they get supplemental progesterone, and the reason why, because it's not so cut and dried. So first of all, progesterone is an inherently essential hormone in the body. So essential. You know, progesterone has all these incredible functions. It helps potentiate thyroid function. It actually helps break down excess cortisol. It helps potentiate the enzyme that breaks down cortisol. It helps protect against inflammation. It helps the cells function at a higher capacity. It's part of a high metabolism. It's an incredible substance. But one of the things is that blood tests are going to be really poor at assessing your body's need for progesterone. So that's the first thing. See, when we measure hormones in blood, one of the things that happens is, we're just seeing what the blood values are. It doesn't give us any perspective on what the tissue values are, which are really important. And so I hate to tell you, but you really can't do adequate blood testing for hormones. And docs who are relying on that are actually under-treating you because they're assessing incorrectly. In fact, I see with a lot of women, especially women over 40, people start testing their hormones and then they always say like, oh, look, your estrogen's low. And I can tell you that estrogen is not functionally low in most people. Now, the problem is that it's trapped in the tissues. And that can create symptoms that people associate with low estrogen. But the reality is that it's actually the estrogen trapped in the tissues is creating a whole host of other imbalances. Now, this is where progesterone is really key, because if you have estrogen stuck in your tissues, you guys, you're going to be by default living in a body that's estrogen dominant. And the challenge is that the higher the estrogen goes in the tissues, it's a great sign that you've been living under stress for a really long time. So the big problem there is actually that the stress response preceded the estrogen accumulation, and progesterone fits in the fact that progesterone production is going to be diminished along the way. Stress response has a big impact on that, but also the fact that stress response has this huge impact on liver function, and then liver function, the liver's responsible for producing the cholesterol synthesis that's needed to make pregnenolone, which is the precursor hormone to progesterone. And so there's this whole complexity that gets really out of whack very quickly, and the origin is stress response. In fact, our aging presentations are all related to stress response. The world has decided to link them to age and decline associated with age, but really you see such dramatically different aging parameters in people who are managing the aspects related to stress. So it's really key. So doctors love to give progesterone. I won't even talk about estrogen here, because if you guys have watched other videos of mine, I'm not a fan of estrogen supplementation. In fact, I will tell you in every single case, it raises the risk of fibrosis and cancer. And so at no time should people be supplementing estrogen in anyone, really. You can use other means to balance out those hormonal methods, but please don't let people supplement you with estrogen. But progesterone can actually be a great therapeutic tool. But a lot of people feel awful when they're given progesterone, and there's a number of very good reasons for that. So progesterone is part of the cell energy excitation, energy generation cycle, which means that when you supplement progesterone, it's another way of kind of like boosting the cell energy potential. But there's a problem there, because your cells, if they don't have access to all the necessary substrates to make generous energy, then you give progesterone and you've actually just created a scenario whereby the body thinks it's supposed to make more energy, but it doesn't have the capacity to do so. And then you feel awful. So that's one thing. Another thing is that when you give progesterone, it is going to help the body liberate estrogen from the tissues. And if you, again, don't have cells that can handle the increased energy needs of detoxifying estrogen, including not just the biochemical balance in the liver, but the energetic balance in the liver, you're not going to be able to handle the estrogen detox symptoms. And so, unfortunately, it's going to make you feel really wicked awful, and the odds are you're going to stop. Now, a big key here is that you have to have cells that are capable of making more energy. I never start with progesterone, ever. Because what I know is that if I start there with someone, I'm going to push the system. And one of the keys to balance and healing is that you never force the body. You work with the body. You know, I was taught by an incredible Chinese medicine teacher. And one of the reasons why I studied Chinese medicine is that inherent in the philosophy is that we work with the body. You know, a lot of martial arts, I don't know if any, I haven't studied martial arts, but I've studied Qigong and known martial artists. And a lot of the really ancient model of martial arts, they use the aggression, the energy of the opponent to take the opponent down. So the whole idea is like working with the energy of the body instead of working against it. Instead of using force, we actually use the natural inclinations, and we harness those to create positive results. And that's the way I approach healing. And which is why I would never start with progesterone. For that matter, you guys, I would never start with thyroid hormone either, because it's actually really counterproductive and creates a lot of stress in the body. So the first thing is you have to harness cell energy that's viable, and you have to give the cells a couple things. There has to be a balance of protein, fat, and carbs that are in alignment for your cell systems. You have to make sure that there's appropriate nutrient bioavailability, which means you need all the vitamins and minerals to be in the right concentrations, but mostly from balanced food sources that are, again, in accordance with your carbohydrate, protein, and fat needs for your particular physiology. You cannot do this by taking a multi. I'm not a fan of multis. They're like the most artificial thing on the planet. I don't care if they're food-based. I don't care where they come from. I'm not a fan of them because they always stress the body, and they never create the kind of results you're looking for. So the diet has to be dialed in with extreme nutrient density, balanced for your cell systems to give your cells what they need to get out of the pit and make energy. And this is a slightly different thing for each person, because not everybody needs the exact same amounts of these proteins, fats, and carbs. And not everybody does well with the same kind of carbs. Some people do better with more starch, and some people do better with more simple, like sugar, honey, fruit. So that needs to be assessed person by person. That's not something that there's like a one size fits all. The one size fits all thing here can be that nobody should be eating polyunsaturated fat. So that means no canola, no soy, no sunflower oil, no safflower oil, actually really eliminating the nuts and seeds, at least at the healing time, because one of the needs in order to balance these hormonal systems is to not have your body have to be processing the polyunsaturated fats. We don't want them being liberated because they actually increase the estrogen issues, and they really tax the liver, and they block thyroid conversion, and you need thyroid function in order to help the progesterone balance. So that, and I don't necessarily mean the gland, I mean the cells. So you need the cells of your body to be able to respond to thyroid. So if someone gives you progesterone and they haven't balanced the nutrient needs, and they haven't made sure that you're getting the right balance of nutrients for your cell systems so that they can make enough energy, and they haven't taken a look at the energy and the biological capacity of the liver, and gotten an idea of what kind of estrogen load you're talking about in your tissues, the problem is, you guys, you're going to feel terrible. And then you're going to think, oh, it was the progesterone. It wasn't the progesterone. It was the cell responses and the fact that your body wasn't primed to go to a higher energy state. So progesterone is magic when it's applied at the right time in the model. If it's needed for the person, it can be incredible for reducing the stress response and actually allowing the body to clear cortisol and allowing the thyroid to improve in its veracity and strength. It can be amazing for that. But if you take it outside of addressing those root causes, it's not going to have that function. Now, the other thing is this. You also, a lot of conventional docs are not using natural progesterone. They're using artificial, synthetic progesterone. And the studies show that that actually acts more like an estrogen, FYI, than it acts like a progesterone. So unfortunately, especially like what's in the birth control pill is acting more like an estrogen. And so this is why I see such huge health problems in people who've taken the birth control pill for any length of time in their life. It creates another scenario that we have to heal. And in fact, like, that's why the longer you're on it, the more the risk goes up for all kinds of conditions. So the rule of thumb is that if you're going to use progesterone, it has to be a natural source, not derived from soy, and ideally dissolved in vitamin E, or there are a couple companies that use like a coconut oil to make a cream. So those are also fine. But again, not saying to go out and use progesterone. Now, what can progesterone help with if you've dialed in all those other things? So arthritic symptoms, excess stress hormones, sleep issues, brain fog, improving thyroid function, improving digestion. It actually can improve skin texture and tone. It's magic, you know. Even progesterone should be in every person's cancer treatment therapy, but you got to be dialing in those other things too. It's an essential. And the cool thing about progesterone is that it actually doesn't shut down your body's natural production. Progesterone actually encourages, like when you supplement in the right way, having addressed the cell patterns first, progesterone actually stimulates your body's endogenous production. But if you don't address these root causes first, you actually can create more problems, and it's going to be a really negative experience for people. And that's why you can't ever start treatment with progesterone. It is impossible. It will not give you outcomes that you're looking for. So don't, you know, when you go see these practitioners and they test your blood, which I'm sorry is a really poor way to test hormones, and they say, oh, you need to supplement with these hormones. The truth is, you guys, that A, the blood was a really awful measure, and B, they're not looking at the root. So they're stopping like 5 steps out. And this is one of my big concerns in medicine. And it's an equal concern in the alternative medicine community for me as it is in the conventional medical community, is that everyone's looking like 5 steps out. And at the root, you have to foster the vital force, like the true vitality of the person that emanates from the smallest structures deep inside of our cells. That's healing. And if you miss that because you go 5 steps out and you slather on hormones, you just throw a bunch of supplements at it, you're not going to foster that. In fact, those methods suppress the vital force and make it virtually impossible that that person's ever going to experience real vitality. So, you know, take the warning, please. Now, when I work with women, we start at the cell and we work outward. We foster that vitality. We address, you know, those deep deficiencies. We make sure the food's structured according to their biology. We work by the person, going step by step by step through. And that's why, you know, the women that I work with, some of them do end up taking progesterone, but down the road. So the first thing is to restore the base vitality and the body's ability to self-repair, and then move into those other levels of balance. Because guess what? You already start to achieve that when the cells resume this vital function. And along the way, there's, you know, hundreds of little steps that have to be done, and they're slightly different for each person. But when you get to that point, then when it's time to incorporate progesterone, it acts magically. So then women say like, oh my gosh, that was like the next piece. I could feel it. You know, my body functioned so different. I was so calm. I was so relaxed. I felt so incredible. And they're able to like foster that and use it for what it's meant for, which is to help manage the extremely stressful state of this Western world. That's why progesterone ends up being a therapy that once we've restored a lot of balance to the cells, we can use. Because you guys, the stressful state of this modern world is way beyond what humans have experienced at any time in human history. And so the challenge there is that we are going to constantly be exposed to stress. It's not going to go away. So a lot of what we have to do is build a foundation that is so resistant and resilient in the face of what is going to be there as far as stress, that our body can feel safe and fed and nourished, and our cell systems get everything that they need to do their best possible job. That's the key. And when we do that, we watch that energy is with ease, sleep is with ease. You know, mitigate migraines, you can mitigate chronic pain, even arthritis symptoms, hormonal imbalances, thyroid issues, because their root was all there in the biology of stress at the cell and the confusion that it generates and the taxing it does on the body. And then you can build outward. And then, you can have that resiliency even though you didn't leave and go live in a cave somewhere where you cut yourself off from all those stresses. And that's what makes for people who can thrive in this modern world and be the best version of themselves. And I get to see that all the time. It's magical because it's like waking up. People realize that they've been really animating a numb person for so long and they just thought it was normal. And it's because of all of these factors. It's the progesterone, it's the thyroid, it's the cells, it's the nutrition, it's the energy, it's the connection to our organ systems, it's the movement of the subtle, life force inside of our body. It's our emotions, it's our mind, it's our spirit, it's all of it. And in order to deal with the effects of that stress response on the biology, you have to address all of it, which is again why you can't just throw progesterone at people and say here's going to be your panacea, here's going to be what heals you. And it frustrates me to no end because sadly I talk to people all the time who've been, just slathered on hormones and told that that's it. And unfortunately, it creates so many other problems. So I don't want you to end up down that road and then trying to understand why things are going so sideways when you did this supposedly natural thing that was supposed to correct the imbalance, because the imbalance wasn't the problem, you guys. The problem is down at the cell. The imbalance is a symptom a couple layers out. And if we keep practicing symptom-based medicine, we are going to fail people over and over and over because symptom-based medicine never, ever addresses the cause. It's like people don't want to ask the big question, the why. So, I'm here and I have times available on my schedule, I think into next week. If you want to have a true discussion about your health and really look at what's happening and where the consequences are and where's the root and what are your cells doing and why are they doing it, and see what's possible and see, if you're really in a place where you're ready, and I'm certain that I can assist you in getting out of this pit and into vitality. It's such a big deal. Yeah, Jennifer, I get it. Yeah, no doubt, right? That there's, and if you go back, I don't know if you've been here the whole time, but if you go back and watch the whole video, yes, I'm sure there is a progesterone component, right? But migraines are extreme low cell energy and inflammation propagating from it. I've seen it 1,000 times. And there's something that people do not have to suffer with because I watch them go away every time we address the cell energy picture. Every time we figure out what that person's physiology has really been asking for, they go away. But it's not just the progesterone. And it's so frustrating because they do things like that, right? They throw progesterone pills at you and say, well, this is going to solve your problem. And it's too rudimentary and it's not going to solve the problem. So I'm glad, really congratulate you for refusing the progesterone pill, because that wasn't going to solve the problem. There are answers and there are possibilities. And really it's answering the one question that has to be answered. In your case and in everyone else's is, why does my body do this? What's the cause? Why is this the pattern? Where is it asking for help? Our body's not stupid. That's one thing. I feel like medicine treats the body like it's stupid. Your body is so beautifully, divinely intelligent. And the fact is that it doesn't generate symptoms for no reason. Symptoms are always the path to the cause. But if people stop at the symptom, unfortunately, we don't get to that cause. And it was an invitation. It's not just an invitation to physically heal, because I've never seen someone who's physically suffering who's only physically suffering. It is always a mental and emotional, a spiritual suffering somewhere in there related to what they're experiencing. And that's why our healing has to have regard for that. That's what happens when we start looking at where's the cause? Why is your body doing this? What is it really asking for? What's really happening? And you unwind from the root, then anything becomes possible. And it's possible for all of you. I'm certain of it. So blessings, you guys. Have a beautiful day. Definitely write comments if you have more questions. And I welcome you to set up time. If you really want to end these patterns, I'm here and it's time. All right, blessings.